when you're looking at assigning fault for the rough weekend, how much of it is driver, how much of it is bad luck, and how do you assign the fault?
I guess it's a mix, isn't it, for both drivers as well. One chunk of it has to be that fundamentally Ferrari's car was not there all weekend. That kind of
Mhm.
started out the disappointment, the fact they were just way off the pace. I mean, down sixth and seventh. But yeah, I think you've got to, on the Lewis side, you've got to place a fairly big chunk on him. You've also got to place a fairly big chunk on on an Italian, sadly, which is Kimi Antonelli taking Charles out of the race. Um, because yeah, I think Charles looked like he was in a decent spot. I don't know whether he would have caught up with Hadjar or not on the way the race panned out, but certainly Charles is probably the only one who leaves without any real blame attached to him because I thought, out of everyone, he was just doing his race, right? But maybe I'm being harsh or too fair one way. Lawrence, what do you reckon?
No, Lewis was to blame for his incident. As far as I can tell, nothing's come out since to suggest otherwise. I mean, the performance of the Ferrari was pretty disappointing considering um, the potential it showed in Hungary, not the end result it showed in Hungary, but the potential it showed with Leclerc getting pole position and leading the McLarens early in that race. I actually thought that they would be the next best team behind the McLarens this weekend, and that didn't come to pass. So clearly there's still issues with that car that crop up on different circuit types and in different corners. So yeah, I mean, you could probably put a little bit of the blame at Ferrari's door for not having the car sorted at this stage of the season, but we're starting to sound like a broken record with that one because we've been talking about that since the first race.
The teams keep saying there's no huge benefit from doing the old thing of we're abandoning this year now and looking to 26, but there must be a point with a team like Ferrari now where you're like, let's, as much as we can do work wise that can affect next year, whether it is updating this car and learning things. I do
Mhm.
wonder whether now at this point in the season, you're just like, look, there's like how much of the focus now is going into this new rules change. Once you're past Monza, that's the real one that Ferrari this year are like, let's just not mess this one up.
Yeah.
You do start to wonder, don't you? Like how much, maybe it's a very simplistic way to
I,
look at it, but I do,
I
I
think
do
it's
just,
100% for pretty much every team right now in terms of development. I don't think we're going to see a huge amount of development come to the cars. We're
Mhm.
going to see whether Ferrari have something very specific for Monza because they've done that in previous years. Often they've said it's not just because it's the home race. I think it probably is.
yeah, the,
Malarkey.
the famous, the famous super engine, as they used to
Oh,
call it.
Loney.
Yeah, but and I think all teams are up that, and that doesn't mean you can't then achieve and you can't find things trackside because the trackside engineering team is not the same engineers that are working on the 2026 car in the wind tunnel. It's different groups, so it doesn't mean you still can't improve and you can't learn things going forward. But I'd be surprised if any team is really still focusing on 2025.
I I also think that Ferrari's walking a fine line with, like, if you watch the Lewis Hamilton mood from the beginning of the season to where he is now, it's a very fine line of they need to bring him back. They need to get him in a position where he is not um I don't know, how would you describe what you're seeing from him, like personality wise, mood wise? They need to get him back from that to give him a reason to not be down and out. So I'm not saying stop focusing, like, stop focusing on 2026. I just think that they have to right the ship mentally with Hamilton. Otherwise, you're going into a 2026 season where the ball is sort of heading in the wrong direction. And you just like, I feel like if any team can't give up on 2025, it's actually them more than almost anyone else.
I
Just
mean,
because.
you're absolutely right, Nicole. Like one of the things that Lewis said on Thursday ahead of the Zandvoort weekend was that he hadn't enjoyed the first half of the season,
Which is
and
insanity.
he said that was due to pressure. And you think of all the excitement there was going into the year, including from Lewis
Yes.
himself. And he said, there was pressure. There's lots of things going on around, and I haven't enjoyed it as much as I should have. And he said his main target for the second half of the year is to rediscover that enjoyment. But I agree that is it might not seem like the most important thing in a sport that's so technical, but I think that is really important to getting the best out of Lewis. Getting Lewis in the right frame of mind, and we saw that in Mercedes as well. When he's in the right mood, he is unstoppable. When he's not, things can can go wrong quite quickly. And so I don't know exactly what that will mean, but it does seem like there's still work to be done just in terms of making him happy with the engineering team, making him happy with the direction they're taking. All of those things need to be in place for him to perform at his best in 2026. But I'm starting to wonder, whether Ferrari, if they look at this season, they may think, well, if Charles is performing and if Charles is happy with the way things are going, maybe he's the guy that's going to lead them into 26 as well. So it is a fine line, because I think they need to, get Lewis in a better frame of mind in the second half of the year, but they also need to make sure that they're not kind of completely dominated by what Lewis wants, if there's better opportunities to be found with Charles. So a fine balancing act, but I think it was quite reassuring to hear Lewis say that in a way on Thursday, because he was so down in Hungary that it really did sound like, at one point he was asked, would you be back in Zandvoort? Those were the kind of vibes he was giving, that maybe he wouldn't. Of course, he did come back. So it was reassuring to hear him directly say, no, I'm just going to go out and enjoy this second half of the year. That's my priority. And despite the weekend not going really to plan, I mean, qualifying was slightly better, but the race wasn't. He was more upbeat throughout. I mean, Nate, you were in the pen on Sunday after the incident. I understand even then he wasn't that down on himself, despite it being his error.
Yeah, he was chipper, especially considering what had happened to him there. And I mean, you can tell Lewis was trying to put a brave face on it. He did feel more confident about how the week had gone. One thing that was interesting, it's in the Dutch press. Toto Wolff spoke to the Dutch press basically to explain to them, the story about the Max Verstappen pursuit that obviously didn't come off. He was asked about Lewis, saying, what do you think of that? And it's on motorsport.com and a few other places. He said he actually told Lewis that night in Hungary, he said, you never heard Michael Jordan talk like that. You never heard the GOAT of basketball say, I'm useless, they should change me. Even if he had a bad game, he would say, no, I need to be better. So you do wonder if people close to him are saying, like, look, Lewis, you can't come out and say that stuff, because I know for a fact a lot of people at Ferrari were quite shocked to hear him say that in Hungary. We certainly were in the media, like Lawrence said. So I think that as much as he was in a better mood on Sunday, it did also feel like he was kind of thinking about everything he was saying in a sense of, let's try and keep this as positive as I can for a guy who's just crashed out of the race. So because I think if he'd given another one of those quotes pre-Monza, just would have been rough from a PR perspective, wouldn't it? Yeah.